We recording?
Now we are.
We both recording?
Yep.
Sheesh.
Sheesh.
Well, it's been a while.
It's been a minute.
Do we still have fans? Is the D4A Nation still a real thing?
That is a grand question. Are the architects still out there?
We gotta know the dancers. They hit a little dancey dance.
So, something interesting about this episode. One, it's the first one in forever. Two, we're actually in person today. It's crazy.
Which is insane. Like, bro rolled up just so we could record. Actually, that's not the entire reason, but bro rolled up just so we could record an episode. Actually, no, for you guys, he rolled up exclusively for that purpose.
That's the story.
That's the story, and we're sticking to it.
Yeah, and we in here in Ryan's crib, chilling, vibing. So it's in person. So, you feel me?
Yeah.
We out here with it.
We out here. So it's been a while since we've done one of these. Oh man, I don't know if I even remember how to do the structure.
Yeah, but life.
Life. I mean, the link of the day.
Link of the day. Let's start with that.
Yeah.
So, link of the day.
It's related to the album we're talking about, kind of. It's very inspirational.
It's very inspirational, motivational, culturally relevant. Just an icon in his prime.
An icon in his prime. Just showing everybody just how to do it. How it goes.
Whoever edited this just blessed the world with something amazing.
Yeah, it's truly an amazing piece of art. And I frankly think that the world is a better place because of the link of the day for the day.
Exactly. So, you want to tell them what we're listening to today, Ryan?
Today we are going to be listening to Pinegrove's 2016 album, Cardinal.
Yes.
This was a pretty crucial release for the band. They had a couple albums before. They had one in 2012 and one in 2015. And I have not listened to the 2012 one, but the 2015 is more like a collection of demos. It's like an hour and a half long or something like that. But this is like their first proper studio release where everything is meticulously put together and it is just one really, really tight 30-minute package.
Yes, very well done. Very amazingly written songs. The structure is great. The themes are... The lyric writing is really good, too.
Lyric writing is phenomenal, man.
I love their songwriting style.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was great.
Yeah, and then... This is like also one of those records that just got a ton of critical reception and like a critical attention. And this is yet another reason that 2016 was a banger year for music.
It was.
Like, you just keep coming back to 2016. It's like every time you're like, you know what? I think that I've explored everything that 2016 has to offer. You pull out a record like this and I'm just like, wow, what a friggin' stacked year.
What a year, man. What a year. Well... Let's hop right in, right?
Let's just jump right into it.
Jump right in. Track 1 is Old Friends. Initial thoughts.
So this one is where is I going with this? Oh yeah. So this one's a good one. This one's all the tracks are really good. I really, really like the precedent that this sets for the record. The first thing I want to point out is the way that the record just so heavily uses rhythm as a contrast.
Yeah.
Because you have, with this track, it's very, very obvious that you have this super duper tight, like, guitar and drum stuff. But then, like, the lyrics kind of have this lilt to them where it's like, it's just kind of something that feels so natural in contrast to everything else. And it's just so cool. And it, like, makes it feel super organic.
Yeah, I love the way, I think the lead singer is Evan
Stephen Hill.
Evan Stephen. Yeah, I like the way he just blends his words together. It's almost like a slur, just like it sways. And it's very like, almost like a drunken, like, but the style is there.
Yeah, and a lot of how I like to interpret the lyrics is it's like they're all masterfully written, but it's like it feels like he's just kind of like. It's stylistically like he's stumbling over his words trying to figure out what he needs to say.
Yeah.
But like, as I said, the lyrics are masterfully written. Everything is so meticulously put together, but you wouldn't know it by the way that he sings it. It's
Right.
just like he just kind of stumbles over the words into these really bizarre rhythms. And when it's paired against the insanely tight rhythmic section where you have the rhythm guitar, bass, and drums are just all super locked in throughout the entirety of the record, not just on this track. But the way that those two contrast is so beautiful.
Yeah, the lilt like adds a lot rhythmically. Like ironically, it's like you have these drum pockets, but then you have like him just kind of weaving in and out of the pocket with his like, I wish that I knew that I was in the next track.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love the lilt.
Yeah, and then this one lyrically is super duper interesting. It's a very poignant way to open the track list because basically it kind of sets up this sort of overall thesis statement for the record as far as I read it, which is this idea of like, how come everything is going wrong? I'm too self-centered is kind of the overall theme of the record. And I love the way that it just so effectively highlights this with these really sharp and blunt contrasts within the lyrics. The one that I have highlighted here is where in the third or fourth verse, I can't remember where, he has the line, I saw Leah on the bus a few months ago, saw a couple old friends at her funeral. And basically that just kind of comes out of nowhere. There is no mention of Leah before that. Before that, he's talking about how there's this girl that he wants to go see who's in a relationship, but he just kind of wants to see her because, yeah, he's in love. He's head over heels. What can he do? But then it just drops this like, oh yeah, one of my friends is dead.
Yeah. And it adds a whole different meaning to this old friends of like, I don't want to meet. It contrasts well with the last track and the first one because the last one's like, oh, I don't want to meet new friends. And then this first one's like, oh, like all my friends from back home and all the people I'm familiar with. But then it just drops this bomb of like, yeah, Leah's dead. I'm like, oh, all right.
Yeah. And I had interpreted Leah being a different girl than the you that he's referring to through the track list or through the not through the track list, through this track. Just kind of like how I like to interpret it is he had that event happen while he was processing the other things he was singing about, and so he associates the two.
Right.
You know? And so it's like it just provides this really sharp contrast of like, wait, no, I don't want to see old friends within the context of like, I don't want something like as tragic as a funeral be the thing that I actually spend time with them, you know? And then it finishes that verse with the lines, I should call my parents when I think of them. I should tell my friends that I love them. And it's just, I don't know. It's just like, I love the way that this just kind of contrasts everything.
Yeah, it's weird because it's like the first verse is like this, like, oh, he's antisocial and, you know, whatever. And then you just get hit with that bomb. And then it's like, you see, oh, there were a bunch of old friends at her funeral and like just all these really, it seems like it's kind of like a diary entry because it's like, it seems like very specific situations that we wouldn't know about.
Yeah.
But it like for him, you know, and he uses a lot of like interesting words in this, like even the concept of aphasia later and like him saying solipsistic moods.
Yeah.
Like this idea of just this internal perception of existence and like just like crazy, like
he just pulls out the wildest stuff. Like
the word choice is insane. But
yeah, this track's really good. And not to mention the hooks on this record. This record's actually incredibly catchy. It's after we listened to it to take our notes today, we were just going about. We went and grabbed lunch, and we were just singing it the entire car ride there.
yeah,
and we've just been singing random bits of this record here and there throughout the day. And it's just kind of catchy. It goes crazy.
Speaking of catchy, Cadmium.
Oh, I love this track so much.
Yes, this was actually the first track that I heard from this album because you sent it to me.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, it just feels good, you know?
Yeah, this one has a few things that I really, really want to highlight, because for one, it opens up with this rhythmic ambiguity where all you have is the guitar, what we later find out is the offbeat.
Yeah.
Like, but it's just the guitar. And so you have, again, like, the singer, he just has this lilt and this just like really odd way that he leans in and out of rhythms. So it just feels really, really off kilter when you don't know what to expect. And then when the drum groove drops in after the first verse, it's just like, oh my gosh, that's so sick.
Yeah, that lilt is, it kind of just has like a nursery rhyme feel of like, you get the I'm walking, dun, dun, dun,
Yeah.
dun, and you're like, whoa, wait, which beat? And then when the beat comes in,
Yeah.
you're like, oh, we're on. So it's sick. It's sick. I like just little things where he like does this dotted rhythm. He does it several times on the album, but when he goes, ways that I wish that I would, da, 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 ways, da, 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 da. Like, I like the way he just switches the rhythmic idea.
Yeah, and this kind of feeds back into another thing that I really, really like about this record, and this song in particular very much highlights this. The way that he uses repetition in a really non-traditional way. Because a lot of times when you have lyrics repeated in pop music, which is typically where because it's like you want to get stuck in somebody's head, so you repeat things. It's typically repeated the same way every time.
Right.
But the way that he uses repetition, it's almost like you're supposed to take every time he says the phrase to mean something different. Like with this one, he opens it with, I was walking with my neck out some way that I wish that I was. And then later he says, go ahead, put your neck out, tell me the way you wish you were. And so it's like that same idea, but then he changes it rhythmically and melodically and contextually so that it's just like, it's just totally different every time it comes around. And he does this for several different phrases on this song. And like you could, like if you boiled it down to the unique phrases, the lyrics would be a lot shorter.
Right.
But I think the constant repetition allows the themes of the song of like, okay, I'm trying to build trust with somebody. What does that look like? And then it's just like,
Right.
it's just so good.
It's like this idea of like the same thing but in a different context. Even in the first track when we're like, oh, this verse is like, oh, about old friends, and he says old friends again, but now that he talks about
At a
the
funeral.
dead friend, it's like, oh, that same thing means something different. So I can see how that's a theme in the album. I want to highlight at the end of the chorus when it does like this slow down, the like that just hits. You know?
No, and this is another thing that I really, really wanted to highlight about Pinegrove as a band is there's like a lot of times when you hear music, it's especially within the last 2 decades, when people are recording things, they're recording to a click. And they're recording to a specific tempo, and this allows things to be more even. It allows you to overdub easier. It allows you to take things and patch them in other spots. It just allows things to be a lot tighter. But this band, it's very, very obvious that this is just one straight shot through the song. They just recorded it. And so for one, that makes them a very tight live band. But then also every single bit of tempo that they use, they mess around with tempo a ton. And basically the way that I've interpreted that is they have an idea of how long they want every moment to last, and they push and pull it so that every moment has as much gravity as it needs to have.
Yeah.
And that moment right there at the end, at the beginning of the chorus, or at the middle of the chorus after, if I just say what it is, it tends to sublimate away. And then it gets back into the groove. I was looking to drive my life. Oh.
Yeah,
and
I love that breakdown.
It's so good.
It's so good. And I think that's something that we lose a lot with like digital era and like grid-based music. It's like you drag something into Logic and you try to like get a loop or whatever. and you get the click, and yeah, it technically hits, but it's like you don't get that feel.
Yeah, like you don't get these little tiny slowdowns and speed ups that just kind of tend to naturally happen. And another band that doesn't play to clicks, or most of the time doesn't play to clicks, is King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. They're one of my favorite bands. They're Australian psych rock group, fantastic stuff. And their music has a very natural push and pull, but I listen to this and I'm like, this is far more intentional. It's like, it's not like this is a natural, it's not like they just naturally decided to slow down. It's like very intentional. Okay, right here, we need to pull this way back so that this has way more gravity.
Yeah, super tight. And I guess the last thing I want to say about this is two things. One is just kind of the theme of this and how it adds to this whole theme of the album of being able to communicate and convey what's on your mind. And this one's literally like, say what it is, like be able to convey what you want to talk about. Even later, aphasia, this whole idea of like a literal condition that allows you to not be able to access words efficiently. And that's a theme I see a lot of, like in relationships, being able to communicate, being able to understand each other. And then the feedback at the end, just like,
it's just so nice, and it allows that last moment to just have it, to just be, and you're just kind of living that. And then we get to the next track, which is just like a total rhythmic and tonal shift, which just kind of grooves really hard.
Yeah, very head boppy, just like, I was totally nervous
to go to Japan.
Yeah. Like, we're just, Yeah,
it's just, you're just like, just kind of chilling. And like, this is one of those songs where I absolutely love the hook more than anything else in the song. How it's so illogical and it's nothing you can say. It's just that melody is just so nice. And then like, this is like the first moment of like that real rock energy where it's just like, you're just like head bopping and it's just like, ooh.
Right. Yeah. I literally have like 2 notes on this track, and they're all just like feeling based. They're just like head boppy. Like the vibes are there. The hook's really nice.
Yeah. And then I have 2 things written. I have the riffs and the hook.
It's just so good, and even his like lazy drawl type adds to it. I love the way like when he slips into his falsetto, it's like this. I don't even know how to describe it. Like it breaks into this like. I don't know.
The way he slips back and forth between his chest voice and his falsetto is really cool.
It's really raw. Like
And there's times, and this was something that I meant to mention for Cadmium, the kind of artistic voice cracks that he does, which it's like, I know that there's people who have tried to incorporate that into their singing style, but like it just kind of comes off super fake. But for him, it's like, since his vocal stylings are just already so unnatural and stumbly, it just adds so much.
Right. For sure. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have for that one.
Yeah, no, that was just that.
Like,
and it's like a short little track. I think it's like 2:37 is the length.
Just about, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a short track. I think we're not meant to like dwell on it too much. It's just, we're just vibing before we get to the next kind of real emotional heavy hitter of the record, Aphasia.
Right. This is actually my favorite track on the album. It was Cadmium before I heard the album, but this one just, I don't know, like from a musical perspective, before even getting into the lyrics or the stylistic, just this progression, this 2-5-1, and then just this walk down the dun, dun, like, I don't know what it is. It's so catchy,
Yeah. And this one kind of goes back into the themes of repetition, but it does it from a completely different angle, where before they're taking lyrics and repeating them and recontextualizing them to different melodies. For this one, it pretty much has 2 main melodic themes throughout the entire runtime of the song, and neither of them are super complex. And initially, when I listened to the track, I wasn't huge on it for that reason. But the more that I listen to it, the more I'm just like, this is really, really cool, because they take that melody and it almost kind of reads like somebody repeating the things that they said to themselves over and over again, trying to figure out what they are, because you have the instrumentation very, very subtly building up throughout the entirety of the track. And I kind of want to get into... I don't want to jump too far out from the music because there's so much to talk about with just the music alone. But when he gets to the lyric, "But if I don't have you by me,
like
then
that.
I'll go underground," and he just screams that line, and that's just the peak. But then it just drops out.
And then you think he's gonna start like
you think it's just gonna go in, but then it just drops, and I'm just like,
what just happened? Yeah.
Which kind of goes back to the theme of the song. Now we're gonna get into the lyrics because I think that it's super duper poignant and super important to mention this. That moment of dropping really ties back to the theme of like when something comes out that you're just like, wait, why did I say that? And the room is just quiet. Like that scream into everything dropping out is just very, very reminiscent of that feeling when you just have the entire room of people looking at you like, wait, what did you just say?
Yeah, and this theme of like just being misunderstood and trying to communicate, it's like you really feel in this progression of the lyrics. It's like the first few are so satisfied. I said a lot of things tonight. So long aphasia and the ways it kept me hiding. It's not so much exactly all the words I used. Like all this stuff of like not knowing what to say, and then it just escalates to like like if I don't have you, I'll
I love the line "so complicated, I can't wait to get explaining."
Yeah.
I love that because I know the exact feeling that he's talking about here, when it's like you finally say something that's just so abrasive and rough and so emotionally true to you, even if it's like something that it's like if you were to logically walk your way back to it, you might not say it. It's finally out there, and then it's like, okay, now we can actually deal with the things now that I've said it.
Yeah.
Which is that feeling of so complicated, I can't wait to get explaining. It's so good.
It's just like you're just building up. Like I gotta get this out. Another vocabulary drop, ventricles that he puts in here. I'm just like, I've heard that word. Apparently, it's like it leads to your heart and the like I guess a valve of your heart. Yeah. And so it's like he's saying, my ventricles. Let me find it. Yeah, apparently my ventricles are full of doubt. So I'm like, oh my gosh, that imagery is different.
It's insane. It's like the idea of like when the doubt is so ingrained that you feel like it's what's pumping through your blood.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
It just, it hinders your speech. It's just like,
And then I want to get to one of the lines at the end of the song for the final build, which is, "One day I won't define myself by the one I'm thinking of." And I think for me, this is just kind of one of those things that it's like, okay, like having been at a place of like heartbreak and like unrequited love or whatever, it's just like the idea is that you tie so much of yourself to that person, and even though they don't owe you anything, and it's just such a simple principle. "One day I won't define myself by the one I'm thinking of," is the line. It's just such a simple phrase, but I had never really thought of it that way, and I'm just like, oh, wow.
Yeah, you get so like attached. Like even this whole stretch at the end, it's like, plus one day you'll be reaching for me and I'll be gone. So to help remind myself, I wrote this little song. One day I won't need your love. One day I won't define myself by the one I'm thinking of. Like that's just...
And then it keeps going. And then if one day
I won't need you, if one day I won't need it, then one day you won't need it.
Yeah.
It's like, this man, like she's probably not even thinking about him.
Yeah,
He's
it's
just like you think you're gonna need me. Actually, no, like, yeah, so I want you to not want me. Like,
this is like a fully introspective song where he's letting everything out to a person that's like, obviously we know that there's a very real chance she heard the song because it was released and was a huge success. But it was even though he was directly addressing her the whole time, it was never for her, which I think it's just such an interesting way to write.
Right. So with that, let us continue on to visiting. Yes.
This one's another one that I love the picture that it evokes of the idea of looking for a person where the relationship is so worth it that they don't care that you're just kind of dragging them along to things. And it's just I'm gonna pull up the lyrics to look through it for this one, because there's just so much to unpack with this one. And it's just kind of one moment.
It's like, the truth is I lost all track of time, and it's just it's just like, you go with me anywhere type, you know?
Yeah, and I also like how he is trying to work through the way that he feels, and he's like, you know what? I don't know, but all I know is that I'm happy, like, in this relationship or whatever. And I love the after it drops out into after the drugs have worn off and we're brittle in the light, would you still be there for me? And then it's picking up here. Still do things for me. Soul on the radio, shaking your car around city to city, Montclair and elsewhere. And then he just, or Montclair and elsewhere. He just keeps going on. And it's just, he's kind of building on it. It's like building up this hypothetical of like, are you still gonna be there?
Right.
And he just doesn't know everything that he's feeling, and he's trying to work through it, and eventually he's just resolved, like, I thought I knew, but I didn't.
Yeah, and even musically, how he conveys that, like, right after the drugs have worn off, it's like this super just drunk beat.
Yeah.
Like, it's super late, and then the drums like speed up randomly, and then slow back down, and you're like, what is happening? The vocals are on this beat, the drums are like slow and then fast. So it's like, really, he's just disoriented after that. So I liked how musically he conveyed that.
And this again goes back to the whole thing of just how cracked they are as musicians and how in sync they are on this record, because this one has so many tempo changes, so much accelerato, so much of all of that, and you have these big drops and like these big builds and just everything, and you don't, as a musician, you don't get to the point where you can play stuff like this without playing with these people a ton.
Yeah.
And even if you have played with people a ton, it's still very easy to miss cues.
For sure.
If you're not like just super locked in, and it's, oh my gosh, I'm just like, this is insane.
It's like they're just speeding up. Da, da, da. I even like, I mentioned his dotted pattern earlier and how he does that like on several tracks. Where he's like, how long would I da 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 da, like he says it normal and then adds that dotted da 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 da. I'm like, I like how he just says the same thing but with a different rhythmic idea.
Yeah. Again, like the idea of repetition.
For sure.
We love a good repetition.
Yes.
And so this one kind of ends on a high energy level into a track that is very not high energy.
Yeah.
It does have a subtle build throughout it, but this song is one of those. This one makes me feel super duper nostalgic. It is just one of those songs that just evokes the feeling of like when you are in love with someone, but you're at that point where you're just kind of hanging out with them. And it gets to the point where it's like, it's outside on like, I'm picturing like late on a summer night for this song, and it's just, you're kind of hanging out with this person, and it's like, there's obviously that spark there, but neither of you have said anything, so you're just very much really, really enjoying each other's company, and it's just, it's such a great feeling, like that feeling before like anything is ever acknowledged, and it's just like, you're just being.
Yeah, it gives me almost a country lilt when it comes in. It's just, and like this line at the beginning, I drew a waveform with your blood. I'm just like, I just have to think about that. Like, what does that mean? Like,
yeah, like what does that mean? Is it, and this is another thing that's very good about Pinegrove, is he pulls out these just insane metaphors that I'm just like, where did this come
layers, bro? Like, I drew a waveform with your blood, and so I follow it, and so remorse. It's like, wow.
Yeah, remorse courses through my body, of course. It's just, and so it's like, which I kind of like take that to mean like, I wish that I had said something. But then it gets into the main hook of the song, the main chorus. In a little while I'll go, unless you might want to hang out a while, then I won't. And it's just like that feeling of like, okay, like you down to hang out? We hanging, we chilling, we vibing. And then it's just, and it's at that point it's just nothing more than hanging out. Like it's like there are feelings you're feeling, obviously, but it's like at that point you're just very much enjoying the other person's company.
Yeah, and that's most of what being in a relationship is, just hanging out. Like, yeah, you got to work through things. Yeah, you got to communicate. Like, I almost think that this album kind of, it mirrors and parallels a lot of things, but one of the things it touches on is just this arc of relationship. There's like aphasia where it's like you feel like you can't communicate anything. And then there's waveform or visiting where you're just vibing. You're hanging out. You're going places.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's a lot of what it is. Like, if you don't enjoy the person, then it's kind of...
Yeah, and so much of this record, what I absolutely love about it is a lot of love songs are that you hear on the radio, at least, like the super commercial pop stuff. A lot of it is superficial, and it's very superficial, but to my recollection, there's not a single point on the record where he talks about the physical appearance of whoever he's interested in that time.
Yeah.
Every single time it is about the feeling of, I am in love and I want to spend time with you. And that's pretty much all it ever boils down to on this record. And I think that there's something just so beautiful about that picture, because at the end of the day, you gotta want to hang out with them, you know?
Yeah, that should be like the top criteria. Like,
yeah,
you have all this other stuff. Can we live logistically? Blah, blah. But do I enjoy this person? Do I want to go everywhere with them? Because you're gonna have to, you know?
Yeah, and I think about like this. This was just some random thing I saw online. That this was probably like 6 or 7 years ago when I saw this, where it's like, you know, you're in love with someone when you're willing to just go to the DMV with them.
I mean, yeah, that's love. Like, I don't know if you guys know, but the DMV
ain't fun.
The traffic, the craziness that occurs in the DMV.
Now, I will say down here in Lynchburg, the DMV moves very quickly. I went in and got my driver's license all figured out in like, I think it was like 30 minutes in total. And that was like, I think it was like 5 minutes of waiting was all, or something like that. And then it's just like everything. So down here, the DMV isn't like terrible, but like up in Maryland, up
in that like sweet spot of DC,
yeah,
North Virginia, like that's just,
that DMV is awful.
Agony.
Yeah.
But if you're willing to go there with someone, then you must really love them.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's.
Yeah.
Oh, one more idea. Not necessarily about this track, but something that this album inspired in me is like, I think of music. There's like two sides of music making for me. There's the do it for the bit. There's the freaking this thing is possible and I've never seen it before, so we're doing it for the bit.
Yeah.
And then there's the like touching deeply on the human condition artistically and I want to do both.
Yeah.
And this is the side of music that I don't feel like I've tapped as much into that I really want to. I really want to lean into maybe a concept and just put it together in this way. Like, I'm so down to do it for the bit. There's stuff coming out between us that will be for the bit. But I want to do something like this. Like, it just inspires me, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And it's very seldom that I find a record that just kind of, even if I've not experienced the exact situations, I just so heavily emotionally resonate with the feelings that it evokes and like the feelings that it's trying to convey. It's so rarely that I find a record like this that I'm just like, oh my goodness, this is just like one of the most emotionally accurate and whatever kind of records. And it's always just, I always just obsess over a record like that when I find it and I'll listen to it. Like I've listened to this record probably like since I rediscovered it this year, I've probably listened to it 20 to 30 times at least.
Yeah, it's a good commute listen, you know. You
Yeah.
get through it in one commute.
It's 30 minutes, you go somewhere, you've gotten through it, you're good. And it's just by the end of it, you're just like, well, I'm ready to go do normal life stuff after listening to a record about a normal person trying to navigate feelings. And it's just, yeah, I don't know. It's just like a record that it feels like, it doesn't feel like it's a musician trying to tell me how he feels. It feels like it's a normal guy trying to tell me how he feels through music.
Yeah, and that's something I appreciate about Pinegrove, about this album, about music like this. It's like, not everyone, most people aren't thinking about, dang, I have too much money and these cars are too big and all of these girls are chasing after me. Like, I don't relate to that. You know, I'm just a guy. I didn't grow up poor. I didn't grow up like in harsh conditions. I'm just trying to navigate the life that I have, you know? And that's what this feels like. Everyone can relate to relationships, even just friendships and communicating.
Yeah.
Spending time with people, you know?
Yeah, and this is definitely one of the most suburban records I've ever heard. Like this record just reeks of that suburban town where there's not much that goes on. So it's like you just kind of like you see the same people around, you talk to the same people, and not much happens, but somehow it feels like everything has so much importance to it.
Yeah.
And every little moment is super important, even though there's so much nothing in that moment.
Yeah. For sure. But that leads us into Size of the Moon.
Oh, this track is so good. This is another one of those tracks that is just constantly building throughout the whole thing. The just overall builds on this track very heavily mirror those on Aphasia. And even lyrically and thematically, it kind of seems to mirror that track as well, with the overall themes of trying to sort out how you feel and things you're saying and everything like that. It very heavily mirrors that and kind of gets to a similar point of looking to the future, where this one finishes with the line of I want to visit the future and dance in a field of light, is towards the end of the song, kind of paralleling the idea of one of these days you'll be reaching out for me and I'll be gone.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that building feeling. I don't know, this song just gives me this sense of nostalgia. Like, I can just sit and just stare off and drive, like, when I listen to this. Another thing I noticed in the lyrics is just this distribution of questions. Like, the first lyric is, do you want to dance? And so with that is like, you know, all these lyrics about coming together and enjoying yourselves. The next one is, do you want to talk? And so it's then talk, like, conveying communication. Oh, my dad got this thing from a book and advice and blah blah. Do you want to talk? The next one, if I did what I wanted, then why do I feel so bad? So it's just these questions that kind of mirror the movement of the album as well. Just like this, do you want to dance? Enjoyment. Do you want to talk? Oh, communication. And just this wrestling, you know?
Yeah. And then it just kind of keeps going, like, just kind of continually super conversational. And I love the line, fine, would you like that drink? Fine, yeah, I know, I remember that too, where it almost sounds like he's laughing when he says that line, like just kind of like a little snicker. And that line really just breaks me when it comes to the emotional gravity of this track, because typically when you think about an argument between two people, we tend, at least for me, I tend to classify it as two people who hate each other having an argument, or two people who are just kind of opposed. But this is a song about two people who were very much in love, having an argument, and we don't know if they like still love each other or whatever, but like that line of like, fine, yeah, I know, I remember that too. In your living room, we began to fight and both got confused. And it's like, I can imagine there being a smile on his face as he reminisces while he's sitting across from a person who he's in the middle of arguing with. And just the cognitive dissonance of that, and just how sad it is, where it's like, wow, he really doesn't want to be in this position where he's not having a pleasant conversation with this person. And then it gets to the chorus, which is, I don't know what I'm afraid of, but I'm afraid.
Yeah, that's a really just a deep concept. Like, you're almost confused. You're like, you have the feeling, but you don't know where it's coming from.
Yeah.
And even with this theme of questions, it ends with this kind of rather morbid tone. It's like the last question or the last few is, do you want to die? It's like, yo.
And the musicality of that line is just like, they hit this really insane like harmonic drop into this scream of, let me find it. It's
the aggression, yeah.
Yeah, there's so much aggression. It's, do you want to die? Fine, you're right, but I wonder what it feels like. And I just and it's just like,
to stop feeling so alive.
It's just like,
yeah.
There's just so much aggression here, where it's like, it's obvious that he's very fond of this person, but in this moment he can't muster that kind of energy towards them.
Right.
You know? And then it gets into the line that I mentioned earlier. I want to visit the future and dance in a field of light, which, another thing I absolutely love about this record that I haven't mentioned is the way that it switches back and forth between the just most outlandish metaphors you've ever heard and incredibly specific details. And this is something that Taylor Swift did, like that idea of really detail-oriented writing, like with songs like All Too Well, where she'll mention things like, we danced around the kitchen in the refrigerator light, where you mention these extremely vivid details, but when you contrast them against lines like, I want to visit the future and dance in a field of light, it really, really makes it feel, you're not just watching the scene, but you're also getting so much more emotional energy, and it's almost like you're feeling everything that's being felt by both people.
Yeah. Yeah, and that contrast between that love in the macro sense of like, we're enjoying each other in general, and then love in like the minutia of like the details and that's what is really beautiful about that contrast of like,
yeah,
the super detailed lyric writing of just like, freaking, we were dancing in the kitchen on the refrigerator light, and then like,
that's a Taylor Swift line, by the way.
That is a Taylor Swift line from All Too Well, right?
Yeah, All Too Well, absolute banger
10-minute freaking.
The 10-minute version was not good, but that's an aside. The 10-minute version was too much. The 5-minute version was far better. But I digress. But yeah, like as you were saying, the difference between the minutia of love, those individual moments where you're just interacting, and those tend to, I feel like we tend to focus on one or the other, but never both at the same time.
Yeah.
Like this album does.
For sure. Dang, we're already at the end.
Dang, this album has flown by. It's not a long album, and it's only got 8 tracks, I think. Right? Yeah. It's 8 tracks on the proper studio album, and it's just, there's so much emotional energy packed into this record that I'm just like, I don't want to leave it. I want to stop talking about it.
Yeah, well, the last track, New Friends, which is also on their other album,
Everything So Far.
Everything So Far.
Yeah, which is just kind of a collection. Like, I imagine it literally was everything that they had recorded up to that point.
Yeah.
But what's so interesting about this is on that one, because I had listened to Everything So Far first. That was the one that I had mostly listened to, and I listened to this one. I didn't care for it, and then I came back to it, and I was just like, holy crap, Cardinal's so good. But what's interesting is New Friends is what starts everything so far. But on this album, it's the last track. And there's so much more weight to it when it's the final track and you've experienced everything that the album has put you through. And it opens with the line of, is there anyone here I know? Look around the room, whatever, I'll let it go. And then it just keeps going. But you just have this... have this emotional gravity of, because it opens up with like him being super caught up in his own emotions, but then it's just like he wakes up from that, wait, is there anybody here that I know? And then it eventually goes on, I resolved to make new friends, I liked my old ones but I screwed up, so I'll start again.
And it leaves this like weird taste in your mouth after like experiencing the whole album, this arc of with whoever this was, communication, someone dying, and old friends because your old friend died, and now it's like you messed up with your... So now you're left in a place where you're like, I kind of imagine him, he's entering a new social scene. Maybe he walks in a room and he's somewhere and he's just looking around like, I don't know anyone here.
Yeah.
But I'm here because the last situation didn't go well and now I have to start over.
Yeah.
So it's weird that the ending's like a start over.
Yeah. And it's so interesting, the last line of the song, what's the worst that could happen? The end of summer and I'm still in love with her. And he just so bluntly says that. Like, that's the type of thing that I feel like as an artist you want to bury under metaphors. Like, I don't know, her grip still ensnares my heart or something like that.
Yeah.
Something just like super deep and poetic, but he just straight up says it. The end of summer and I'm still in love with her. And I like to picture this album as being the journey of the summer. And it's like, there's anachronisms, is that the word?
Yeah.
Anachronisms within the record where it's like, I couldn't trace it as one story, but it's like all of these songs have that summer vibe, but it's just at end of summer and I'm still in love with her. And he's like, this is a problem. I'm still hung up on this person. And because of that, I have to make new friends. I have to like everything. And it's just like, he's just like, you know what? Whatever, forget it.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you know what? I've just screwed up. Let's just get off the subject because it's just bumming me out.
Yeah, and even after one of the forget it's, we get this like, oh, like this crunchy, just oh, you know, like another aggressive moment of just like, he has it's weird, like it's the emotions are tugging, like he has this forget it, anger, and then at the end he's just like, forget it.
Yeah, and this is something interesting where it's like I could swear that Spotify has the lyrics wrong here, where the last line of the final verse of this song is, I resolve to make new friends. Won't someone tell me to quit my head and help me forget her, is what I heard. But what's written is, and help me forget it. But I don't know. I hear an R in there. So I think the final line is, help me forget her. And I think that it's just like that feeling of like, dang, I'm hung up on this person. I don't want to be... I just love, won't someone tell me to quit my head and help me forget her. It's just so good.
Spicy, man.
Spicy. But it's just a freaking journey from start to finish. You start with old friends, and you can almost view old friends as taking place after new friends, where new friends is him freshly in that realization of, or like even at the same time, new friends is in that realization of, wow, I have to be making new friends. But old friends is kind of reflecting on that idea of, these are the people that I've pushed away because I got caught up in all my own stuff. And it brings the record full circle in such a cool way that it's just this one contained melancholic sense of either unrequited love, failed love, whatever. It's just like, it's just, the whole record is just so melancholic, and it's just one complete feeling. It's, oh man, like I'm just like trying to search for words to just figure out, because like when I finish the record, there's just always that pit in my stomach of, wow, what a journey.
Yeah, and it's always like dang, it's over, or like another Pinegrove song will play, and I'm like, oh, the album's over.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah, it leaves this weird taste in your mouth of like, it's just the arc of a relationship, and that it doesn't always end well, which sometimes pop music will lean too much in the, oh, my heart's broken, it sucks, and no, forget her. Like, but this is more of like a, dang, like
even though it didn't work out, I'm still in love with her. And it's, and this is just kind of gets into the idea of like, yeah, no, you need to understand that not every relationship is going to work out. So it's like, it sucks to get that invested, for it to not work out. But as you said, with like pop music, a lot of songs about heartbreak, it's like, you broke my heart, now I'm mad at you. Now I'm just going to be angry and very revenge focused. But then this one, it's just like, it's clear that he harbors no ill will towards her. It's just, dang, like, I'm just over her.
And I still wish it did.
Yeah. And it's a sucky feeling for sure. But
it's almost worse than this, like, because I feel like in pop music, it's this resentment just covered up by all of this anger and forget him, revenge.
Yeah,
but under it, it's like, dang, like, I wish it worked. I miss this person.
And it's super cathartic in pop music typically, which is like, it makes sense because when you're selling somebody a song, you want them to be able to get out everything that they want to. And a catharsis like that, of like, dang, I got hurt, so now I'm angry at you. It's like, yeah, girl boss, you get it.
Yeah,
tell him how much he screwed up.
That's that's the main idea, the main like thing that they're trying to convey these days. It's just like, I don't need that person, or da da da, like, he messed up or whatever. Like, there's even some songs where it's like, I cheated, but like, whatever, you know. It's like, it leaves you like, okay,
dude, there's this awful song that plays at Ross, and I hate it. It's easily my least favorite song. It's this song called Secret Lovers. I couldn't tell you who it's by because it just plays on the radio, but it's basically just like, it's a duet, and both people are singing about, because they are hooking up, but both of them are in married relationships, not with each other. And they're just like, but why can't we be public about this? And I'm like, because you're doing something wrong. Like, it confuses me. Who thought this was a good idea for a song?
Yeah.
Like I understand having songs about, like, I understand having songs about cheating and, like, that being something that you discuss, because it is something that has happened throughout humanity. I believe every perspective deserves to be heard and deserves to be put out there in artistic form, even if it's like, dang, this person's a terrible person for this. A lot of times you can get a lot of really cool perspectives of like, wow, I understand that I'm in the wrong here, but my impulses led me to this. Like, The Good in Me by John Bellion, great example of that. And it's just this song about like a dude who's getting dragged in to help to be some woman's trying to cheat on her man with him, and it has the lines like, your heart's a vine that I've bled trying to climb, you're making a ruin of me. And I was just like, and it's like, it portrays that just push and pull of that, and it's like valid, and it's like, okay, like, I don't agree with the actions that you took, but I hear you and I understand where you're coming from. For that one, I'm just like,
yeah,
why are you making a song about trying to say I should be allowed to cheat? That should be something that's totally allowed. It sucks that I can't like be open and public about it with no consequences. And I'm like, you wonder why?
Yeah. But with that being said, Cardinal, really, really, really good album. I know our last episode was talking about Bound by the Hope So's. This band is one of Seth's main inspirations. Yep.
Which it's really interesting. You can listen back through a lot of his writing and you can see a lot of that.
Yeah, even in down to like the lilt, down to the aggression at moments. It's like he models, and we talked about this a little bit during that episode, but he models a lot of his his writing style, a lot of his artistic choices, off of Pinegrove, Bon Iver, a lot of that scene. And they're both from Montclair, so.
Yeah, very, very cool stuff. But yeah, that is Cardinal by Pinegrove. Yet another 2016 banger for the podcast.
Yes.
What are the other ones? I know we did In My Room is 2016.
Yes.
Did we have any other 2016s, or is that it? Chris's was from 2018.
Yeah. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But with that being said, that is another one in the books. We're back, I guess.
I sure hope that it's not 2 years before the next one.
We're here. We are still alive, architects. We just life.
Yeah. And follow both of our personal pages and stuff. I know I've been focusing a lot more on writing my own music, so that's been fun. And Malachi's been doing great. He's just been helping out with production stuff and like mixing. He's been the George Martin to my proverbial Paul McCartney, even though my writing is not nearly as good as Paul McCartney's yet.
Yeah, but it's just life's moving, but definitely expect things. Yeah, follow us, follow our endeavors, you know.
And and I'll try and post videos here and there on the podcast page, just talking about random things. We'll see. I don't know. We'll see how much we do with this. Ideally, it's not another 2 years before the next one, but we'll try and record more often than once every 2 years.
But gotta blast.
Gotta blast.